All right, what's up everyone? Logan here. Welcome to webinar all about AI search for remodelers, and basically it's all about how to get found in AI search. So what I'd love real fast is to set some quick, ground rules to this, but basically a lot of what we're going to talk about today is going to be probably like newer stuff for some of you, but also a recap for some of you. So when it came to actually talking about this topic of how are homeowners finding remodelers online, how does AI search work, all of that stuff, I basically had this wide range of really nerdy, and I could nerd out as much as possible, all the way back down to something more simple that is really focused around what is ChatGPT, how do you log in, and we're picking somewhere in the middle on this one today. So for some of you, this is going to feel like this is so much information that I didn't know about, and for some of you, you're going to feel like you could have presented this. So I'm trying to find that sweet spot because we had a few hundred people sign up for this. So it's a really, really wide range. So with that said, if you have questions around any of this stuff, there's actually in Zoom a Q&A box that you can start to chat in with and say, hey, here's my question. And then what I'm going to do with that is, as this webinar, which is about 45 minutes long, goes on, I'm going to be able to answer that at the right place and the right time. And then honestly, if I get enough like nerdy questions, we can have one of our SEO specialists come in and be able to answer that. If you really want to get technical, I even have a cousin that was a AI product manager at Salesforce for a very long time. That a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today was stuff that he kind of helped develop and went through back in 2015. So it's funny when I talk to him about AI and how all this stuff works. I get all excited by it, but ultimately he's like, Logan, I showed you that a decade ago, so it's kind of come a long way. So if you have questions throughout it, go ahead, drop them in the actual Q&A box. I get access to all of that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and we're going to jump on in. First off, how do we get found? Now, who am I? Because I'm looking at this list of who signed up. There's some people I know, but there's a lot of people that I don't know. So I want to just kind of set the record straight first and foremost of there's a lot of stuff online where I'm on LinkedIn and I see how people are using AI, and basically I see stuff like somebody will make a post and they'll say, oh, I used AI agents to basically recreate an entire operations department of my company and I fired everybody in operations. And there's a lot of comments that people have been like, wow, that's crazy. How did you do that? And then when you do a little bit more digging, what you actually start to see is that person is the only person working at their company. Like there's nobody else that works there. It's just them. So basically this is my way of saying like, look, I have spoken at IBS, Contractor Fight, Remodelers Advantage, Job Tread, Remodelers on the Rise. I've been on stage at all these places. I run a digital marketing company specifically for this industry. So basically this is my way of just simply proving that I'm not just one of these nerds in a basement that pick up a laptop and say, look, you could fire everybody and do it this way, but I have no credibility. I've done all this stuff, all right? So just so you know, you're in good hands as we're talking through this stuff today. But without further ado, now that we can all agree this is pretty legit, let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing that I want to go through today is basically this idea of inside-out marketing. And this is something that we have talked a lot about with a lot of the clients that we work with. But ultimately, as AI progresses, and by the end of this presentation today, you're going to really understand like, okay, this really makes sense. But ultimately, the reason that I want to start off with this is I want to highlight what it really takes to, build a strong internet presence, but also on top of that, what it's really going to take for you to start to get found in these AI searches, in ChatGPT, in Perplexity, in Gemini. And what it really starts off with is we really want to go to the heart of everything here, and that is basically just understanding what problem is your ideal client facing. That is going to be one of the biggest things that we can highlight here, because when it comes to knowing how we want to show up, how we want to get seen, all of that stuff, we need to truly understand what problem or problems our ideal client is actually facing. Then from there, we're we're then going to have to figure out, well, how do we actually help them solve that problem? And when I say problem, what I mean is, I don't mean like, oh, this person wants to have a nicer kitchen. What I really mean is like, here's a younger family, they've got small kids, their house feels too cramped, they have a couple, young kids, so for them, like, they need to have safety is a big thing, but basically, those are the problems that they are having in their home that they are wanting a kitchen remodel to help solve. So if we just take it at a very surface level thing of like, what's their problem? They want a new kitchen. It's actually a lot deeper because when we think about the remodeling industry, people are spending a lot of money and it takes a long time and it's a very invasive process. And no matter how great our experience is, it's still, we're stepping into somebody's, I got 2 young kids. I got a 22-month-old and a 7-week-old, and we're going through a remodel project right now. So like, no matter how great it is still a very invasive process that costs a lot of money. So ultimately, we need to understand what are all the problems or all the fears that somebody's dealing with, and how do we actually help solve that? That then becomes basically the foundation for all the marketing, so that when somebody sees you and finds you, the next piece is, can they actually envision you specifically helping them with their problem? Now that they're able to see like, oh, this company could help me, the next big piece that we want to tackle is, can they actually find you when they're looking? And the last bit, and this is like the high level stuff, which is, do they even know that you exist or know who you are before they even start looking? So that is like the framework that we want to take today, where it starts off at, what problem is the ideal client facing? Then, how do you help them actually solve that problem? Then, once we kind of lay that out, can they envision you specifically helping them where they think like, oh, this is the actual remodeling company for me? Then it goes into, if they're looking for someone like you, are they able to find you? And then lastly, and this is like the cherry on top, this is what branding really is, do they know you before they even start looking? Now, this all has to go in a certain order. What we're talking about today is step 5 of all of this stuff, which is once we figure out our ideal client and how we sell to them and what we do special, and then we have the media and the branding dialed in, and then we have a website that looks great, then and only then do we really want to hammer the SEO and the AI search side of things, because ultimately, up until that point, the first 4 steps is all about making sure that when we are trying to speak to our ideal client, when they're able to find us, and we're now actually pouring fuel on the fire, which is the SEO and the AI search side of things, are they likely to convert into an actual referral quality lead or not? Because what we don't want to do, and the way that like the analogy I like to give here is, let's say you take your website, for example, your website's meant to act as like the resume for the business, where just like a resume when you're trying to apply to a job, if it's not a great resume and it has a lot of spelling errors and it is very generic, it doesn't matter how many hiring managers that you try to give that resume to, nobody's going to want to actually give you that first interview because they're looking at the resume and just tossing it in the trash. It's the same thing here. So a lot of what we're talking about today is all going to be focused on step 5, but we want to get the other pieces in place first, because ultimately the AI is going to want a lot of this stuff to be dialed in already, but ultimately the last thing that we want is we spend all this energy and effort to basically get the right eyeballs on the business, and when they come back to the website and actually see what it looks like to work with you, they can't envision you being the one to help them, and they go to the next person down, and then ultimately that's just a waste. So it's all part of a very simple process, but today we're going all through step 5. Now, the big shift here, and what we're talking about today, is the shift is already happening when it comes to people using AI search. It's here. I don't think I have to convince, if you're on this webinar, I don't have to convince you to say, oh, like, here's this thing called AI and it's going to be a thing. Like, you are here because you recognize that it's a thing. It's not going to slow down. It's really only going to continue to ramp up. So right now, you're probably already seeing this where you started just doing SEO searches and going into Google, and next thing you know, these AI things start to pop up. So we all know it's here. It's not going away. So I think we can all agree this is going to be a thing that it's like if you can't beat them, join them. Today is all about how do we actually join them in the right way. What we're not really going to go through today is we're going to go through some tactics near the end of this. I want you to really understand the concepts behind this, because ultimately if we spent a lot of time on tactics and we were doing this webinar 2 months ago, we probably would have spent a lot of time talking about Reddit. And the reason for that was 2 months ago, ChatGPT relied heavily on answers from Reddit when people were searching in ChatGPT. So then there was all this talk around, well, you need to get found in Reddit and you need to set up all this Reddit stuff. And basically overnight, what happened was ChatGPT changed up their algorithm and changed up how they approach this stuff, and it dropped the significance of Reddit from here way down to here. So what I want to avoid is saying these are the exact tactics that you need to hammer today, because honestly, by the time that this webinar ends, they could all be different, right? Everybody's trying to figure this out at the same time. This is very much the Wild Wild West. So with all that said, like, we're going to go through some tactics and some things that are going to be like tried and true practices for years to come, in my opinion. But ultimately, what I don't want to do is say like, hey, just over-index on Reddit, or like go really heavy on this one specific thing on your website, when ultimately it's just going to be one of the tools in the toolbox. I really want to help you think through how to approach AI, because ultimately that's what's really going to carry you forward and help you win in the future. My big goal here today is that you're going to walk away with this thought and understanding that you're going to walk away saying, I understand that I need to be more authentic, transparent, and human for AI. So if I do what I want to do today and I convey the information over to you correctly, you're going to walk away saying, okay, I get it. I need to be more authentic, transparent, and human, which sounds counterintuitive for AI. However, it is really like the basis of a lot of what they're looking for because of how smart it actually is. So here's what the agenda is going to be. Three things only. One, we're going to talk about how the homeowner behaviors are actually shifting, so what actually is happening in the market. Two, how AI search works. And then three, what you need to do about it. And that's really it. I want you to understand this is a thing. We know it's starting to work, but how is it kind of working? Then it goes into, great, now that we can understand that AI search is not going away, what actually happens behind the scenes? I'm trying to break it down as simple as possible to make sure that everybody understands it. But then lastly, great, and this is really what you're here for, what can you do about it today, tomorrow, next year, and as time goes on? I custom made this slide. I'm very proud of it myself. But basically, everything I'm saying today, take it with a grain of salt. All right, I mentioned that this is all the Wild Wild West. Nobody really knows what's going on. So everything that I'm saying could change. So don't legally, you said this, Logan, what's going on? Like, all this stuff is like everybody's trying to figure it out as it goes as well. A lot of what you're going to realize today is a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is like SEO principles kind of 101, right? So it's going to seem like, oh, this is great for AI. It's really great for SEO. And there's actually, crazy enough, a lot of companies that came out really heavy on, oh, I built this AI search software, GEO or AEO software, that are now coming out and shutting it down because they're realizing like, okay, there's not all this crazy special stuff. Yes, there are some differences, and we're going to talk about what those differences are today. However, they're realizing, okay, this is really just really good SEO and really good how to get found in Google that now AI is really picking up and really enjoying. So as I go through this, take it all with a grain of salt. It could all change. It could be completely different. I finished off these slides yesterday. All this stuff could be completely changed at this point. So that's really the premise as we're going through this stuff as a whole. Now, let's talk about some behavioral shifts as a whole. ChatGPT first came out, was made public November 2023. I got it back in November 2023, and I've been using it ever since. My whole company here, everybody here uses it. We all use it every single day. It has won Employee of the Month now for 24 straight months here at CGN, so we absolutely love it. With that said, though, it's not just us. Like, the rest of the world is starting to pick up with this more and more. August of 2025, so a couple months ago, they had 700 million weekly active users in ChatGPT. At this point, November, they think it's about 800 million active users. There's 8 billion people in the world. That means that about 10% of the world uses ChatGPT on a weekly basis at some point. So It's very widespread. They looked at those numbers. They said about 16% of that number is actually people from the United States. So it's not 10% in the US, it's probably even higher just because of what we got over here. So understand this stuff is here, people are using it, and they're using it at a much faster and faster rate as time goes on. With all that said though, what I want to get across is it is not a replacement for Google yet. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. But right now, Google just came out and basically said, look, in Q3, overall, more and more people are coming to Google to actually do searches compared to Q2 and compared to Q3 of last year. So what that really shows is that they're not looking at AI and ChatGPT as like a complete replacement right now. So it's not like, oh, they're stealing all this stuff from Google. Google is still growing. They're still getting more and more people to Google to do these searches. However, people are now starting to layer the different tools together where ChatGPT comes in for one thing, Google's used for something else. In that first line, they say the overall and commercial queries have grown. Basically what a commercial query is, a query is like a search that somebody actually types in. Commercial means this is somebody that is looking for a commercial product, or in other words, they're looking to buy or go to a business or something like that. So a commercial query would be remodeler near me. So what that means is that people are actually using Google more and more to type in those terms that are like remodeler near me, kitchen remodeling in Charlotte or wherever it is, more and more. But because they're showing all these other searches in ChatGPT and stuff like that, people are starting to layer it over and over again. I know for me personally, I use a lot of ChatGPT, especially when it comes to searches. Anytime I cook something, I have it up. My laptop typically has olive oil all over it at any given point because of that. But I use it where now this is kind of like, it is taking market share from those recipes where you type in, how do you cook this meal, and somebody gives you this whole back romance story of how they met in Santorini and they loved it and all this stuff. And then, 8 scrolls down, they finally give you the recipe, and it's like, it's a super simple thing, but they need the full backstory ahead of time. ChatGPT is kind of replacing those things. The generic stuff that's kind of fluff, that's kind of crap that everybody was frustrated with, but we didn't have an answer to. Now they're able to use ChatGPT and Gemini and things like that to really like replace those. But when it comes to overall searches in Google and actual like commercial things, which is what we care about, it is growing consistently. So do not think of this as like, oh, Google's going away. It is now just shifting. And this is really my prediction of how this stuff is going. There's like 3 different eras, if you will. And the first one's like kind of in the past at this point, but this is just straight up just SEO and Google era. All right, this was, you would just, everything that you did on the internet was all geared towards Google, getting people to the website, keyword rankings, all that stuff. And right now, we're in what I'm calling the AI overview era, which is like this middle ground of like AI starting to shift and we're layering stuff on. But in the future, and this is really a lot of what we're going to talk about today, because a lot of the principles that we're going to talk about are not just like relevant today, because some of them don't even work today. Some of them are going to be, as the AI gets better, it's going to become more and more prevalent in the future. It's not quite here yet, but if you can start to do these things today, you will get to that point where in the future, once it gets better and better, and it gets easier to scan the internet and scan the websites that are being put out there, the more that you're going to win if you start this stuff today. And that's really what I'm calling like the personal AI era. And that's where it's going to get to the point where, if you've seen the movie Her, it's too cringy, I can't get through it, but I understand it. It's that place where, when Siri first came out, and it was just like my parents were like using Siri to like search for stuff. And I thought it was the silliest thing. Well, that is the direction that a lot of this stuff is going, where people are able to like speak into their personal AI assistant and actually ask it things. At this point, I'm 99% sure my ChatGPT knows more about me than my wife does, just because of how much I interact with it. It's super knowledgeable, and in the future, like the near future, I really think it's gonna be like 5 years because of how fast the adoption stuff is. It's gonna get to the point where people are really asking their own ChatGPT or their own AI, like, hey, what should I do for this? Who do you recommend for that? And ultimately, once we get to that place, I really believe that what this is gonna do is if you think about how you get prospects and homeowners to reach out to you now, it's going to be majority referrals, maybe like 70, 80% referrals, and the last 20, 30% is going to be the internet. I don't think that the personal AI stuff is going to replace Google and that 20, 30%. I really think it's going to take a much bigger portion of the pie, because if I think about it, if I ask my neighbor, like, hey, who did you use for your kitchen? I'm thinking about doing my kitchen. Who would you suggest? They're going to tell me that person, but ultimately, in the future, who is going to know me and my scenario and what my likes are, what my dislikes are, and my family history and how I approach things better than my neighbor? It's going to be my AI tool, right? So what we're going through today is how to really set yourself up for that in the future, because that's really, if you can walk away going, I need to be more human and transparent and authentic for AI, it's going to really help you out once we get to that phase where people are just going, hey, I need to hire this kind of person. Who do you got? And it's going to be able to figure it all out for you. So keep that in the back of your mind. This stuff is coming. We're all on it here at CGN, so we're very dialed in on this stuff. But before we freak out and go, okay, AI's taking over. Right now, remember, we're still in that AI overview phase. Right now, if you type in like a local search, which would be like a kitchen remodeler near me, they have like that little AI overview thing that pops up at the top that does like the summary. It's happening in like less than 7% of searches. So it's still majority. The normal Google search result shows up. Again, people are still going there. It's still growing. We want to emphasize that. So it's not like everything is now AI. Again, it's going to get here, but it's not quite here yet. A lot of what we're going to talk about is basically how to get found in SEO, and then what are the extra things that we want to do for AI, because that's what's really going to feed all the AI stuff moving forward. So it's not like it's taken over everything. It's slowly working its way there, but it's not quite there yet. So don't freak out. Keep on it. So with all that said, just as a heads up, at the end of all this, we will, if you want us to do like a SEO and AI audit of your company, you'll have the opportunity to do that. Just setting it up for the end. Costs nothing to you, but you know, at the end of the day, like I'm teaching you all this stuff. The next piece is like, great. How do you then do it? If you want to get like an expert set of eyes, we got you covered. Let's go through how actual AI search works. So there's different names for it. The official name is called RAG, but realistically, to make it a little bit easier to understand, it's going to be 3 phases, which is understanding, scanning, and synthesizing. And that is the premise of how AI search works. So when it comes to understanding, the first piece here is think about if my wife and I are, well, you know, we're doing an addition on our home right now, right? We just had a second kid, and the whole basic backstory here is the current nursery, or the old guest room for my, in my house, it's a 3-bedroom house, was where my wife's desk was, because she works from home every so often. And once we moved the toddler from the nursery down to the guest room, we made that his new room to be able to have the newborn go in the nursery. Well, now we have this desk. Where do we put it? So we started to think, okay, where can we put it in our house? It's a small house. It's a 1946 house. So I can't just pop it in this one space. We have nowhere to put it. We tried it in a bunch of different rooms. It doesn't work. The only place that we could do it is in like the dungeon of a basement, but it looks like the scene from the movie Saw. It's not, if my wife's on a Zoom call, it's not going to go well. So basically we need more space to actually spread out. So we said, okay, let's actually look at doing a home edition. What are the options here? So there's this whole backstory to all this stuff that we're going through. But ultimately what then happens is we have all this context, and then what we do is we go to Google and we do a very simple search, because that's what we know how to do, because Google's basically trained us how to do this stuff, right? If you think about in your world, a person's coming and they want to remodel their kitchen. They may have the exact same backstory as us, where it's, I've got young kids, I need to reconfigure this space, I want to have, all my appliances off the countertops because I'm sick of seeing them, I want better storage. But ultimately what your prospect does is they go to Google and they just type in best remodeling company Charlotte or Dallas or best remodeler near me, or whatever that search term is. They're doing a very basic search. And with SEO, the way that it works is you basically want to, and we hate to say this, but it's kind of the truth, kind of game it a little bit to say, okay, if we want our company to show up for best remodeling company Charlotte, what do we need to do to get found at the top in a way that's still beneficial and helpful for people, because what we don't want is to super game it, get to the top, they click on the website and they go, wow, this is terrible, I'm going to the next one. But we're kind of figuring out, what does Google want? AI is different. That first piece is that scanning idea, where what AI is going to do is they're not just going to do this one search. What they're actually going to do is a bunch of searches all at once. And they're going to do a bunch of different searches. And what they're really doing here is they're trying to guess and figure out, what do you really mean? Do you really mean the best remodeling company? Or do you mean somebody that's a luxury design build firm, or somebody that has really high client satisfaction, or they've won awards and maybe they're in South Charlotte because it knows you're in South Charlotte? So this is called a query fan out, but long story short, it's going to take, instead of your one search that you're typing in, it's going to do a bunch of searches all at once based off of what it thinks you actually want to know, and it gives a bunch of variety of what those searches can be. So it's not one search, it's a bunch of searches all at once. What it then does is it's then going to go to Google, a little bit of Bing, but it's mostly Google, to then figure out, okay, great, based off of all these searches, what are those answers, right? Who are the top renovation companies with high client satisfaction, or the luxury design build firms? And basically it's going through this whole internet to figure out who is who, and then what it does is it gets all these answers back, takes all the answers together, puts them back in one nice, neat response, and that is basically how it works. So what it does is, one more time as a recap, it's going to take a simple search, but do a bunch of searches all at once, scan the whole internet to figure out who is who, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this from like a more technical, like what should you now do based off of this in a little bit, but ultimately, it's going to take all that information, compile it back, and give you that one simple response. So realistically, what that really means is when you're thinking, okay, I want to remodel, kitchen here in Tucson, who do I talk to? It's going to give you some answers, but it's just going to basically take all this stuff and behind the scenes do all the work and come back with, this is who you should talk to. And right here, one of our clients for our remodeling, they're number 2. You can see them right there. Realistically, what this means is if you're saying ask ChatGPT, SEO matters a lot for this. Because for that same thing, in this case is, I want to remodel my kitchen in Tucson. Who do I talk to? Both of these are kitchen remodeling company in Tucson. He's showing up in both spots because basically the AI wants to make sure that this is legitimate, right? That we're able to find these people. So ultimately, if you're not able to get found in Google, you're not going to get found in AI. So this is what you now need to do. It's a pyramid. This is probably going to be the nerdiest thing of everything we're talking through today. But basically, this now comes down to, what do you need to do for your company? All right? There's 5 things, and it goes from the bottom to the top, and this is how it all works. So the very first thing that we're going to go through is what we're calling the technical foundation. And basically, think about the foundation of a house, right? It doesn't matter how great you are. If the foundation is cracking or it's falling apart, you can't build on it. That's the same thing when it comes to all this AI stuff, where basically your website and your information, your website needs to load fast, and it needs to be easy for AI to be able to scan it. So it needs to be easy to navigate, and it needs to be easy to get found on mobile and things like that. This is all really good SEO practices, but basically, if we make it too hard on all this AI stuff to actually find our information or get our information, it's just going to go to the next thing. Google's the same way. It costs these companies a lot of money to scan the internet. Like, this is not just like nothing. It's a lot of energy. You hear about all this stuff of like they're creating like nuclear power plants to be able to like run these things because of how much like electricity it takes. That's why. So the easier that you make it on AI to learn about your company, the better it's going to be, because it's going to want to keep coming back to you versus like, they made it too hard, I'm going to somebody else. Then the next piece is SEO authority. In other words, you need to get found, right? If you think back to the actual like scanning part of going out and figuring out who is who, if you're not getting found, if you're not easy to get found, it doesn't know that you exist. So it doesn't matter all the other stuff that we're about to go through. You have to get found. It used to be like right now, ChatGPT really much, they just go right to Google, and it used to be that they could look at like the first 10 pages of Google. And they could figure out from there, okay, we have 100 answers because each page has 10 answers. We have 100 answers. Now let's figure out who is who. Well, Google got really smart and they basically said, look, we don't want you to come and just steal from our own land. We're going to make it harder. So what Google actually did was they stopped allowing ChatGPT to then do a search for all 100 at the same time. Now ChatGPT only searches for 10 at a time. And what that means is basically Google made it so that if you are not on the first page of Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, they're not going to be able to come in and scan who you are because they're not really going past page 1 unless ChatGPT says, screw it, we're going to pay all this money because every page they go to costs them more money and more resources. So now it's come to the point where if you are not on page 1 of Google, you're just not going to get found. So you need to make it easy for AI to find you. Then the next piece is entity and brand recognition. Basically, now that it can find you, and we're going to talk about how to make sure it finds you, but now that it can find you, does it actually recognize that you're a legit business or not? Right? Does it actually believe that you're a company? Because if you're looking for top remodeling company or whatever the search is, they just want to make sure that you're an actual legit company and you're real. That's really what it comes down to. Then once they establish, okay, they are real, then they want to actually understand what is the information that you're giving. And when we do that, what we want is we now need to make it easy for this to find the information and scan it on your website. So this kind of goes back to the idea of like, is it easy to navigate the website? Is it mobile friendly? But on top of that, it's also, having FAQs on your website. So if somebody is trying to type in like, who is an award-winning design build firm in Charlotte, if you have an FAQ that talks about, have you won any awards for remodeling? And the answer is like, yes, we have won awards for remodeling here in Charlotte. As it's that idea. So basically, the easier that you can make it, where it's almost like you're using this to speak to like a third grader to understand this stuff, that is what the AI wants to do. Because again, the more cryptic your messages are, the harder it's going to have to work to figure out what you really mean. Let's make it easy on them. So now at this point, they're able to find you. They know you're a real business. It understands what your answer is. The last piece is authority and brand trust. Basically, it wants to know, are you an expert in this space, right? Because just because it verifies you're a real business and you answer the question, is this your first day in business or is this your 30th year in business? Because now that they have an answer, think about it in your world. If you were going to go to a doctor and this was day 1 versus, year 30, they probably have a lot more experience of knowing, oh, I have seen this before a lot. This is my diagnosis versus somebody brand new. So with that, it's going to want to know, are you legit or not? So it kind of goes through this filter of, can we find you? Then, are you real? Then, can we understand what you're saying? Then, are you an actual expert and are you actually legit? All right? So Greg asked, what does being an expert in your space look like for a contractor? What context works best for this? I'm going to go through that because we're going to talk through how do you actually implement some of these things in practice in a few minutes. So I'll get there, Greg. And what we're going to go through is a lot of it is on the website, right? This is where SEO lives. A lot of it is going to be on your website. So we're going to go through some of the things that you really need. Now, let's go back for a second into that personal AI world where this is you're speaking in and you're going, okay, like, hey, I need to find a remodeler near me. And if you were to say best remodeling company in Charlotte, remember, it knows a lot about you. This is a couple years in advance. And as the technology gets better and better and better, what it's really going to do is it's going to have more in-depth questions. So it's not going to say just top renovation company. It's going to say best Charlotte remodelers who design warm natural kitchens with lots of space, kid-safe layouts. Family-focused design build company, high-end remodeler who blends modern with natural. Somebody who's known for reliable schedules and clean job sites and a stress-free client experience. So basically what is happening here is the AI is understanding, okay, what Logan said was he wants a good remodeling company, but here's all the things that I actually know about Logan. I know he has a couple of kids. I know that he and his wife, they don't want to necessarily break the bank and have a blank check, but they're willing to pay more for things that are worth it. But they're very type A and they want schedules that are super reliable, but they also, because they have young kids, the job site needs to be clean and stress-free and all that sort of stuff. So basically what we want to do is we want to get as much of what we do really well offline that clients absolutely love. And that's like, if you think about why you're getting referrals from past customers, a lot of those things that your past customer is saying about you behind your back in a good way, those are now the things that you really want to highlight on your website, because ultimately as the AI continues to progress, those are going to be the things that when somebody does a search, it's going to basically say, great, I found all this stuff about Logan's remodeling company. This aligns very much with what you're wanting, even if you didn't explicitly ask it, and it's going to be able to return the right responses. And then as this stuff progresses, this is where I truly believe people are going to get more and more aligned with understanding, okay, this AI stuff like knows a lot about me. All I said was best remodeling company Charlotte. And right now with Google's pretty smart. It tries to contextualize and give each person their own individual Google experience, but ultimately your AI is going to know a lot more about you. So while Google may be able to give it a little bit more specificity, AI is going to know a lot more about your back history. It's going to make it a lot better of a response, which is why you're going to get to the point where it's just basically like you're asking your AI, you're not asking your neighbors or your family members who they would recommend, because you're just going to trust this thing that much more. And that's why I truly believe that this is going to continue to progress in that way of it's not just replacing SEO, it's going to heavily dig into the market share that your referrals have right now. So this is what we're calling the remodeler content stack. So there's really, there's like a bunch of things that you could do to actually make this stuff happen, where you're getting found for all the right stuff. But really what we're gonna talk about today is 3 different things. We're gonna talk about project walkthrough pages, service and location pages, and then process and experience pages, all right? Those are the main 3 things that if you walk away and go, okay, what are the things that I need to focus on? I do have a couple of things at the end of this that talk about how do you build authority and how do you become seen as the expert, which I'm gonna go through for you, Greg. But basically, these are things that you wanna have on your website that it's gonna be great for AI, it's great for SEO, it's also really good for conversion when it comes to when homeowners come on your website, they can see like, oh, I can envision myself with this company, all right? First thing is these project walkthrough pages. We call them feature project pages. And basically what this is think about your projects that you're doing. What most people are going to do is they're just going to show a bunch of photos that look great, right? And that's about it. They just go, here's an album. That's all it is. The problem here is the AI is really smart. However, if all I have are photos on this page, the AI doesn't necessarily, they can scan the images and they can see what's in the images, but they may not necessarily know the context behind it, right? So what they may not know is that this is a remodeling project that just finished, all right? They may think that maybe this could be final photos of an interior design company or a professional staging company, or maybe this is a window company that said, hey, we want to show off these new windows that actually show light into the kitchen, so we're going to take professionally shot photos. There's a lot of information that is getting missed if we just do photos only. Now on the flip side, we want photos and we want professionally shot photos because it can still scan this and it can understand what is actually in the photo. When we have like a blurry iPhone photo or something that's like smudged, or it's like 90% of the way there, but it's like still kind of under construction, it gets it harder because it's trying to scan and understand what's happening in the photo. So we want to actually show nice professionally shot photos. It's great for everything, but on the AI side, when it's trying to understand what is actually happening in the image, these are going to bode much better than just like a random iPhone photo that's maybe hard to even see. And again, the harder that we make the AI stuff work, the harder it's going to be to then continue to get found by it, because it's going to say, screw it, this company just, they make it too hard. So what we want to do is we want to add a lot of context on this page about what is happening. And this is where we actually want to build out like a walkthrough page. You want to highlight what you did, where you did it, how long it took, what was the overall price point of this stuff, because again, we're trying to give more information to explain what we did, why we did, and how we did it. That is the whole premise here of trying to be more authentic and more human around what we're actually doing. We want to also be able to build in, great, how do we actually make this stuff happen, right? We didn't just come up with a number and say, great, we're going to do this. We actually went through an entire design build process for this thing to happen. So now that we're actually explaining how we got there, again, back to that idea of somebody's typing in design build firm, or somebody is using their personal AI assistant, and I assume you just keep it right here on your left breast the whole time. That's why I keep pointing to it. They want to know, like, how are you actually like getting to that place? So somebody says, oh, I'm really into design, or hey, we know that you've hired an interior designer in the past. Now that you're about to do this kitchen, you probably want to hire a remodeling company that focuses on design. This adds more context of how to get there as well. Then we also want to be able to highlight maybe special features that happen. So it's again, if it knows that I have kids, it's gonna go, look, you need a mudroom, man. Like, you didn't specifically ask for a remodeling company that also does mudrooms, but we know that you're gonna need one. Let's go ahead and make that thing happen. So basically, what we wanna do is we wanna focus on, when we talk about projects on these project pages, we really want to give a lot of context behind what we're doing as well, so it can actually feed the nuancy and the story stuff. So when I go to my AI and I type in, I need this, and it's gonna do all those searches, these are gonna help to educate and inform the AI of like, oh, they actually did all these other things as well. It's gonna give it a lot more information to then hopefully return my company as the one that somebody is searching for in ChatGPT. The next thing are gonna be your process and experience pages. So let's say you do design, back to that, in this instance, it was just very simple. We just did design, that's all we really talk about here, it's quick and dirty. In this case, we actually wanna explain design, right? Again, the more information that we can give it, what we wanna be able to do is explain how we do design, if that's a big part of our process, because a homeowner who values design is gonna wanna understand, okay, they say they do design, but instead of just simply saying like a quick bullet point that says, oh, we do design, check us out, they actually want to understand how your design process works. So we wanna be able to lay out how we actually do it. We wanna talk about maybe how our design helps. So maybe if somebody, for example, in our house, like our basement is unfinished. Well, the problem in our basement is that at one end, it's 6'8", on the other end, it's 7'8" in height. Well, we didn't want to just finish it off and have a basement that's, now 6'6" or whatever it's going to be, because for the next people that buy it, like my wife and I have no problem staying under that height, but for the next people that buy it, they're going to be like, this is kind of weird, especially if they're a little bit taller. So we didn't even know, is it possible at all? So a lot of these things that make you special as a company, if you are really good about, hey, you may not know what's possible, but when we come in, we are really good at reconfiguring and re-updating the possibilities here in the space. That is what we're good at. This would be somebody that if I said, hey, we want to redo our basement, but I don't even know if it's possible, AI goes out and it says, hey, actually this company does this design thing that talks about, hey, we're really good at finding possibilities that may not have been there. That is the idea here. We also want to be able to show off proof that we have done this before. So we want to highlight, this is actually befores and afters, this is how it can work. If there's things that make you special and unique when it comes to your process as well, because maybe we say, oh, everybody does, everybody's design process helps with possibilities, but if you have a really cool design studio that you can bring people to, again, you want to highlight that stuff because, one, it's an authority play, but also if what's important to me is I actually want to go and see the space and I want to meet up with somebody in person, well, this now adds another layer of like credibility for that. All right. So process and experience is super big. You want to be able to spell this stuff out in a way, again, that makes it easy to understand. It's also, again, really good for SEO, really good for conversion. But if one of the things that you're really good at is timelines or, fixed cost is like your jam, we want, again, to highlight that stuff and articulate it. We don't want prospects to just guess by the time they come to you that it's like, oh, do you do these things? Ultimately, we want to continue to educate this stuff online. But again, the more that we can feed this into the AI, the better. And then this is where we'd come in and talk about, hey, if safety is a concern because I've got kids. If you specialize in this stuff where you're adding locks and dust protection and all this stuff into the job site that's going to help make this experience as good as possible for these families, again, highlight that stuff. Because if you know about it but nobody else knows about it, the AI stuff, it can't guess that like, oh, I think you do this. It's going to have to know what is what. So feed this the information so you have your projects. Now you have your processes and experience. And your last piece that we're going to highlight today is going to be the actual service pages themselves. What this means is basically if you have 5 services and you want to get found in 5 different areas, well, the way that AI knows, do you actually do this service in that area? Again, it's going to go to Google. You got to be on that first page for those different services in those different areas. So if you are in Charlotte doing kitchens, great, you got to get found for that. But now if you're 35, 40 minutes north in Lake Norman that does kitchens as well, again, you got to get found for that. So you want your service pages on your website to be super SEO friendly. They need to really highlight what are the actual problems that you are solving. They need to highlight when it comes down to like, how are you actually doing it? What are your styles? Do you have certain things that you like to do? Remember, back to that idea where it was, I want somebody to remodel my kitchen like a warm, natural tone. this is your time to shine on those certain things. So again, this is a lot of just information, taking it, wrapping it up in a nice even way so AI can understand it, and feeding it over to the AI to really pick up on who you are. Last thing is just also what's your process? Like, how does it actually work? What is your way of doing it? We want to continue to just feed it more and more stuff. So those are the big three things that when it comes to like your website right now, I will say as a caveat to a lot of this stuff, right now we've done a lot of tests on this. Your homepage is still the most important page that AI is picking up, right? As it gets better and better as time goes on, and it's easier to crawl through your website and scan through it, it's going to be able to pick up on these pages more and more and more, which is why you want these to have them there, because now not only are they good for right now for SEO as well, but as the AI is able to scan through stuff faster and faster, these are going to be that much more important. So right now, candidly, the homepage is still the most important page, kind of like that on the SEO as well, but you want all these pages to continuously just be things that represent what you actually do offline. So now online, whether it's SEO or AI, is able to pick you up. Now, Greg, this is one of your questions. So one of the things is Greg asks, what does being an expert in your space look like for a contractor? Well, right now, you actually have another week, but NARI has Remodeler of the Year awards, right? If you win an award like that, that is where now when the AI goes, or are you an expert in the space or not, that's a big piece of how you get there. If other known websites or known entities are actually linking over to you, again, AI is going to be like, okay, well, let's say, I don't know, Home Depot links to your website because it's showing that you're a credible source. AI is going to be like, okay, we trust Home Depot a lot, and as a result, we really trust that Home Depot, if they're going to hype you up, you must be really good. So that means that if you are getting, good PR, which could be like, you got your press releases, if you win awards, that Rainy Blair Weidman client of ours, they were actually the contractor that did like the HGTV smart home last year. All of those things are super impactful as far as like being seen as the expert. So what I would say is like make sure that you are getting found in the community and you're applying to awards. And if there are like sponsorships and stuff like that that you can do for like even like a local 5K and stuff like that, the more that you get mentioned in these other reputable places, the more likely it is that they're going to say, okay, this is an expert in the space. Next big thing is like record and document client conversations. So legally, check your state laws, make sure that you're good to go on this. But like, for example, I know for us, every interaction we have with clients, it's all recorded. And we use all that information to then write their blogs and write their website copy and all that stuff to make sure that we are getting the right detail and the right information and the right tone of voice. Right now, what you could be doing is maybe you're saying like, all right, I will tackle this stuff in the future, but I want to do something right now so I don't feel like I'm completely just like missing the boat. My suggestion is I would get a phone service that actually records stuff so you actually have real ways that it can listen and understand how are you actually addressing these problems. When somebody says, hey, I want to get a quote on remodeling my kitchen, can you give me a ballpark price? And then you're able to go back and forth and talk through, well, if you're willing to give a price over the phone, hey, let's talk about what you're looking for. Like, is it small? Is it big? And then that whole process and that whole transcript, that then is going to allow you to give better answers on your website moving forward. So start to record that stuff. You can even get like Plod, which is like those little like AI recording devices. Basically, it's a transcription tool. We have clients that actually use that on like their design walkthrough that then all that information either gets put into an initial proposal much faster or it gets transferred over to like the design and production team. So there's a lot of uses for it now, but ultimately you want to be able to feed AI and the internet this information, and the best way to do it is just get it like live, so that way it can actually hear how you're answering it. Next piece is going to be establish and optimize all directories. I know you saw that slide about like Yelp and Angie and stuff like that. You may not love Angie, you may not love Yelp, you may not even love Houzz, but ultimately you need to have a profile on those pieces, all right? Similar to how Reddit used to be really big when it comes to, being big on ChatGPT, what we want to do is make sure that we're getting found on all these other platforms, because the AI may not know that Angie sucks or Yelp is really only good for restaurants, right? But if we're getting found there, that's another credibility place as well. We want to make sure that we're getting found as much as possible. You don't have to pay for it, but just get like your actual profile established over there. It's also important where, like, especially on Houzz, you're starting to get reviews over there as well. My suggestion, still focus on Google, because ultimately I still firmly believe that Google is going to be the winner when it comes to when people are trying to search for their local service. Google's Gemini is going to be the thing, not ChatGPT. So Google's still really much going to favor their own stuff. So get them there, but make sure you're diversifying where it can still scan Houzz, and check that out as well. So make sure that you have all your other directory stuff set up. Great for SEO. It's really good for AI as well. Professionally shot photos, I talked about that stuff already. Make sure you get them. And the last thing is just get 100% of clients to leave you a review. We're in the show me era. People want to see proof. They want to see concrete evidence of this stuff. Let's make sure that we're actually getting this, because again, it's going to help you big time as far as like showing credibility in your space. So get those reviews. The AI, again, can scan through your reviews right now, but it does make it a little bit harder if it's not front and center on your website as well. So keep getting those reviews. So Greg, hopefully that answers it, but start to apply to awards. That's gonna be your biggest thing. Somebody said, I know there's a lot of talk about AI replacing SEO, but from my understanding, AI actually depends on SEO, the structure of the metadata keywords. It's really more of a partnership than a replacement. Could you explain how SEO continues to play a key? I'm guessing, yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about at the beginning, which is basically, it is not replacing SEO. It plays off of each other. If you have really good SEO, that is the honest way of doing it, you're like 90% of the way there for AI. There's gonna be certain things that AI factors more in like their algorithm, like the directories thing that we just talked about. Google likes it. It's very helpful for Google, but for AI, it's like super important. So for Google, it's not the end all be all. It is important, but for AI, super important. So those are some of the things where it really comes down to what are those weighted factors. One is going to be a little bit more than the other, but ultimately, if you have good SEO as a whole, you're going to have really good AI as a whole. So that's the idea here. What does it look like? Does it look at certifications? Yes. All that stuff, your business license, your certifications, like those are all things that Google now even like can see that stuff. So basically it's smart enough to know, are you legit? Are you not legit? There's always going to be asterisks and nuances of like, oh, this person's not licensed and they're number one in Google. Yes, it can happen, but ultimately what your goal is to build a holistic, strong, healthy brand. And part of that's going to be, are you certified in certain things? If you are, you're a hardscaper, so let's say, say like, I don't know, TickleBlock said, hey, like they are certified over here. They're also amazing. Well, because Google and AI is like, they know TickleBlock's like a legit company. And if they are hyping you up, you're more likely to then get hyped up as well as far as like, are you that real business, right? I would say on the expert side of things, that wouldn't be seen, because just because you're certified in that, it may not be seen as the expert. The expert would be, are you actually winning awards, things like that. But when it comes to like, are you a real business, the more that you can get found for like having like a true honest business, the better off it's gonna be. Rick wants to know 100% of reviews, even if it's negative. Yeah, I probably wouldn't do that one. So I would say be smart about it. I don't think that negative reviews are necessarily going to help you, so I would nix those. Just get the good ones. Yeah, I got cut off rather than being pushed them aside. Yep. Yeah, basically it's just, yeah, AI and SEO, they work very much hand in hand, so keep on it. Another question is, what should I do in-house versus what should I hire out? A lot of the stuff, so this is like the in-house stuff, when it comes to like the foundational pieces, like you need to, the technical SEO stuff is the technical parts of your website, it's honestly too hard to do it in-house. Social media should be done in-house. Working with professional photographers should be done in-house. Like you understand that stuff. Capturing client information should be done in-house. But for the rest of the stuff, I'm a firm believer of doing it outsourced. Granted, we do this, so you take all this. I am biased because there's certain things that we do as a company, but at the same time, there's also a lot of things that I hire outside vendors for. Could we do our own taxes? Maybe, but like I outsource that stuff because they're gonna know the best tax laws, that kind of stuff. So basically what it comes down to is the more technical pieces, the more that you need to hire this stuff out for, unless you're going to hire a full-time in-house website developer that knows how to do all this stuff and keep it up to date. So I would outsource the stuff that makes sense to outsource, but if there's certain things that need to be done in-house, especially around social or media and things like that, you can do that stuff in-house. Nick said, how can we utilize AI in our marketing strategies? Google Ads. So Google Ads is, at this point, there's not much going on with it. I know there's conversations about Google Ads, or ads being in Gemini and stuff like that. But Nick, can you clarify what you mean by how can we utilize AI in our marketing strategies? Basically, a lot of what I talked about today is all about how to get found in AI. So hopefully that answers it, but let me know. Dave says, how can AI work for a new business? There's a lot of different ways. I can't give you one. I don't. If you give me more specific on what your question is, I can help out with that. But basically, it's just a tool. It's kind of like saying, how would a shovel help with a new business? It's like, well, it'll help you dig faster. That's kind of what AI is able to do. But let me know if you have a more specific question I can help answer. Rick said, allows you to address whatever is so negative, and so builders, GBP adds real data. That's what I was asking. Yeah, ultimately, it's up to you. If you want to, get bad reviews just so you can go in there and address it, that's totally cool. I probably wouldn't suggest it, but it's totally up to you on what you want to do. So, yeah, I don't think there's necessarily a bad thing. Dom said, what if I don't want to deal with all this stuff? Is this something you help deploy for companies? Yes. We have basically stripped out. It's funny, Dom is actually the one who's doing my edition. So, Dom, great job. What if I don't want to do this for all this stuff? Yeah, so we do all this stuff. We basically stripped out a lot of the other services that we've done. I firmly believe that this is the future of this. Ultimately, if everything that I'm saying today does not work out, CGN will not be a company to exist anymore. That is how much I believe in it, how much everybody here believes in it, and how much we are all in on this stuff. So we have been hiring people specifically that know this stuff to be able to help with it. Caleb said, I'm a UC Berkeley dropout who recently sold an AI software company, now experimenting in contractor marketing. I took landscaper as number one. We'd love to learn from you. How can I get in contact? Caleb, you'll just get an email after this that just talks about some stuff. Go ahead and just reply to that, and we can set up a conversation around this stuff. We have more content on Instagram. Does AI read that? Google does read. They just recently did this. They came out and they started to index or put in their search results Instagram, chat, TikTok, things like that. And if it's on if it's on Google, it's going to get found by AI. We didn't talk about today how media and YouTube videos and all that stuff plays into this. It plays into it. However, it will get found. They also said, should we put the IG feed on the website, or best to actually add the words on the website through projects and FAQs? So I would not put the full, you can put the full Instagram feed. A better bet is to add elements of it. So maybe you can have, if you have a cool reel on your Instagram, you can embed that on certain pages of the website or blog posts that align with it. So let's say you have a reel that you walk through a really cool backsplash that you just did. You could then take that, embed it on a blog that talks about, top 5 backsplash styles that are coming out in 2026. So it actually has a visual associated with it. So you can connect it for sure. But I wouldn't just put up a blank Instagram feed unless it's you're very consistent with it. And even at that, I would probably just put it as a little logo in the footer of everything to then get sent over to your Instagram. I would make it a big deal because what plays on Instagram is going to be different than what plays on a website to convert people. Instagram is more of entertainment and stuff like that. Your website's meant to educate and persuade that you are the right choice for them. So I would be more intentional around that sort of thing. So hopefully that answers it. Cool. Sounds like AI heavily relies on internet data about our business. Are there opportunities for doing paid advertisement placements such as ChatGPT, Grok, others? They're starting to talk about this stuff. I know ChatGPT has come out and said we're going to start to do this. It's a business at the end of the day. At some point they're going to get into ads. I will say for example, let's say with Google Ads. Google Ads has changed a lot over the years. If you look at how often people click on Google ads, like from a search, it's really only about 5%. So what that means is you're paying to get to the top of it, but people now understand what goes into ads, and they clearly show that they prefer to click below and click on like the actual organic stuff. So I firmly believe that that's going to be the way that ChatGPT and these other companies, it kind of goes as well, where like, yes, you can do ads, but I think unless the ads are like, I don't know, I just don't see a way, like ads are always usually disruptive. I mean, when I listen to podcasts, I skip through when Joe Rogan does his stuff, like I'm ripping through like AG1 because I don't want to like listen to the 3-minute spiel about how he drinks it every morning. So I think it's going to go the same way just based off of human behavior. Doesn't mean that ads can't work. Doesn't mean that it won't work. Doesn't mean that they won't add them into the platforms. But for right now, I don't believe they have any in them. They've made rumblings of it, but I do ultimately believe that like you getting found naturally is going to be the best bet for all of this stuff. All right, if there's any other questions, please let me know. But hopefully this is my goal of today. Remember, is to walk away saying that I understand that I need to be more authentic, transparent, and human for AI, because ultimately, if it can find you and it understands these things about you, you're gonna be in a much better setup where it can actually figure out what are you all about. So if you want us to check out, again, I talked about this at the beginning, your AI and your SEO visibility audit, a lot of it's gonna be focused around SEO, but we're also gonna look at like the little AI nuancy stuff. 20 minutes, we'll be able to walk through what works, what doesn't work on your side of things. Here's how you'll do it. We'll even shoot you an email about this stuff afterwards. But again, make sure you're authentic, make sure you're transparent. The big thing about AI that I really like is ultimately the best companies are gonna win. Like I really believe that this is going to remove, I don't know, the ability to continuously game the system, and the people that are actually running good, open, honest companies that can then articulate what they're doing, put it online in a way that it's easy to get found and it's understood, the better. So if you run a great company, you're gonna be in a great spot. If you don't run a great company, then it's gonna be tough. So I love this stuff. We're all in on it. So if you want us to check out your stuff and talk through how this could work, here you go. Otherwise, that's what we got. If you have any questions around this stuff, please let me know. Shoot it over our way. info@cgn, or go to our website and let us know. Rick, thank you very much. I appreciate it, everybody. And by the way, as a side note, we're going to be doing these webinars once a month. There's going to be different topics, all geared around how to really help build your remodeling company the right way from a marketing and online digital perspective. So if you like this, we'll be back the first Thursday of every single month, 2 p.m. We'll see you next time. But if you have any questions, I'll see you guys. Thank you.